Countess, good to see how you doing. You're the first one in. How you been? Joe, good to see you as well. How you doing, brother? How you been? Pablo, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Camel, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? How's everyone doing today? How's everyone's day? Good, bad, or just starting out, depending on where you are. Good evening, Miles. Mr. Miles. I hope all is well and you had a wonderful day. Had a great day, JP. Good to see you, so brother. How you doing? Salam, brother. Miles, and peace to whole CMF family. Let's go, funky brother. How you doing? How you been? So, mixture of news to go from tonight's live show. We have Bank of International Settlements news. We have CBDC news. We have Federal Reserve news. We have SEC news. We have launch newses. You're bullish after today's rate cut, Miles? It seems to be, yes. George, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles, the CMF. But yeah, it seems to be the market should start slowly reacting in a bullish way. Dennis, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good day, mate. Dale, good to see you as well. How you doing? So we'll do a gist of what we're going to go through on tonight's live show. And then we do intro, disclaimer, and by that time, everyone's tuning in for the first part. So on tonight's live show, we are going to be going through these topics. We're going to be talking about the Federal Reserve regarding the rate cuts that just happened and how the impact of the market's going to be, some bullet points to go through, and so on. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live show regarding TON. The TON ecosystem has just secured a $30 million investment from BitGet Exchange, which is very impressive. We're also then going to talk about BlackRock on tonight's live show as well, how BlackRock, the managing $9 trillion in assets, is now issuing a new statement about Bitcoin. So we're going to go through that on tonight's live show. We're also going to talk about BRICS on tonight's live show in terms of what Russia's just announced. We're also going to go for the news topic of Revolut Bank on tonight's live show as well. Now, everybody's heard about Revolut Bank. Apparently, it seems that Revolut Bank is about to be introducing their own stablecoin, which is a big move from Revolut Bank of introducing their own stablecoin. We're also going to talk about the SEC on tonight's live show as well. As you all know, I've been talking about the SEC going up against the governors and the commissioners. Well, it just happened, and we have some bullet points to go through and what exactly happened with the SEC and Gary Gensler. Apparently, in the words of the title, the SEC boss, Gary Gensler, we're also going to talk about the SEC essentially once again warning the crypto space. And then later on, we're also going to talk about the SEC getting hammered by the Congress members. We're also going to talk about Silvergate on tonight's live show as well. One of the most crypto-friendly banks ever has just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We're also going to go through on tonight's live show regarding the commissioners going up against Gary Gensler, and that JP Morgan has just joined the Bank of International Settlements project. Also, we're going to go through Wisdom Tree news on tonight's live show as well, how Wisdom Tree is empowering institutions with innovative tokenizations of real-world assets. Wisdom Tree has just entered into the real-world asset space. They entered into the crypto space a while ago through New York, through their own application for high-profile investors, and now they're introducing real-world assets through Ethereum. We're also going to talk about Australia on tonight's live show as well. Australia's central bank is committing to a wholesale CBDC, which is quite impressive for Australia because for a while there's no news coming out of Australia. We're also going to talk about Bitstamp doing investments in Australia since the news of wholesale CBDCs came out in terms of institutions getting into play. So, mixture of news to go from tonight's live show regarding Russian news, Australian news, Bank of International Settlements news, JP Morgan news, SEC news, Fed rate news, mixture of news to go from tonight's live show. Obviously with Q&As, which we love doing. I love it when everyone gets involved inside the comment section. So, welcome to the CMF live show. If you're watching this for the first time ever on this live show, it's called the CMF, stands for Crypto Mouse Family. I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies and CBDCs, AI, and politics. We also do Q&As on this live show as well, which means if you have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have, or somebody from the comment section could even answer your questions, and other CMF members. And the disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So once again, if If you are new, welcome to the CMF live show. If you're regular, let's go CMF. Thank you so much to everyone that's been retweeting and liking this live show right now on X, right at the beginning of the live show. Genuinely mean it. Thank you so much to everyone that's been retweeting and liking this live show right at the beginning. Thank you so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching right now who's also liked the live show at the beginning as well. So, live show has officially started now, but before we go for the Fed rate cut news, which is quite a major announcement, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go through that. 50 basis points deduction. Yep. Well, there was only 3 outcomes on the table. It was either 25 basis points, 50 basis points, or 75 basis points. 75 basis points would have been quite drastic. 50 basis points is okay. And 25 basis points, pretty much nothing happens. So having 50 basis points happening is basically the Fed even stating themselves. Jerome Powell came out and said that the United States economy is doing fine, which is the explanation for the 50 basis points. Free and verbal, good to see you, how you're doing, but we got 50 basis points, and I'll explain what that means. I now know what it feels like to be waiting for 40 hours in a day. Hi all CMF, I just want to introduce myself as JP. We had a fantastic Monday, and I hope you had a great weekend. JP, let's go. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Dazzle, good to see you, how you're doing on the live. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Orphan, good to see you, how you're doing, how you been. Hello, Miles. Oh man, I'm not first again today. Let's go, Scott. How you doing? How you been? Tom has gone nowhere after this little gift that happened today. Even Miles and CMF peeps. Sempre, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How's your parents, Miles? How you doing? Business good. Family's good. Everything's great. How's everything with you, Scott? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing, Lena? How you been? Hey, family. If you do not mind, please share the live. Yes, always share the live. Thank you, Scott, for mentioning that. Hello to CMF on YouTube. I hope you had or was having a good day. Let's go, Scott. Good evening, Miles. How you doing, brother? I'm doing great, Kenny. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Life is good. How are you? Life is great. How you doing, Paul? Hi, Miles. G, good to see you. How you doing? Hey, Miles. If you don't mind, please share live. Family, if you don't mind, let's go. Manny, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, Miles. CMF. Okay, first news on tonight's live show. The Federal Reserve meeting that just happened. We're going to go through the highlights, the bullet points of what was discussed, and how the market could play out from here on out. Federal Reserve meeting. Major highlights and key points that happened today. The Federal Reserve cuts the federal funds rate by 50 basis points to 4.75% to 5%, aiming to balance inflation and economic stability. The Federal Reserve lowered the target range for the federal funds rate by 50 basis points on today. This action brings the rate to a new range of 4.75% to 5%, which is the first decline in 4 years. This decision is in line with the Fed's policy of ensuring that inflation is kept in check without jeopardizing the stability of the economy. Federal Reserve's justification for this rate cut of 50 basis points. The Federal Reserve announced that the rate cut, citing recent economic figures that pointed to the growth at a steady pace, but with some moderation. Although job creation has slowed down and the unemployment rate has risen marginally, inflation is slowly moving towards the Fed's target of 2%. The central bank considers the outlook for the economy as still cloudy. However, it views the risk of achievement of the dual mandate as every split. Chair Jerome Powell noted that this decision is a small step to the fine-tuning policies to help the market, and the Fed is still determined to meet its employment and inflation targets. In addition, the Fed is likely to go on reviewing the data flow and may change the course of its policy should new economic circumstances occur. Jerome Powell's perspective on the economy so far in terms of the landscape. Jerome Powell noted that the U.S. economy is healthy and the economic growth is expected to remain strong. Inflation is gradually coming down, with the labor markets remains robust even as job creations slow down. The Fed chairman emphasized that the Fed's goal is to return inflation to its target level without causing a sharp increase in unemployment, which is typical for disaffections. The head of the central bank also added that the low interest rate environment has been observed in the previous years is not expected to continue in the future. Jerome Powell admitted that the neutral rate, the interest rate that does not stimulate or hinder economic growth, could be much higher now, but it is still unclear just how high it's going to become. This shift is a break from previous monetary policies that have involved extended periods of near zero interest rates. For a while now, the Fed has been extending, that is correct, reactions to the Federal Reserve's decision. However, the rate cut was not supported by all members of the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, as the Fed governor, Michelle Bowman, voted for a 25 basis point cut. Nevertheless, the Fed chairman stressed that there was consensus within the committee regarding the need for a policy change. He stressed that a decision would be taken from one meeting to another concerning the current forecasted trends. Some of the investors have been supportive, but many of them have raised concerns that the 50 basis points cut was too much. Financial markets expressed their reaction with a keen interest with the S&P 500 and Dow Jones setting new highs after the announcement. However, concerns over the size and the time of the cut diminished the rally, as some think that the economy is still quite healthy and did not necessarily need such a deep rate cut. Moving forward, the Federal Reserve's Summary of Economic Projections, the SEP, indicates that the interest rates may fall even more in 2025 and 2026. According to the SEP data rates, there could be a 4.25% to 4.5% by the end of this year, with more possible cuts on the way. According to a current forecast, the central bank expects interest rates to reach 2.9% by 2026, which may suggest a further softening of monetary policies. While the Fed decided to decrease rates, Jerome Powell noted that this does not mean that the same trend will persist in the future. He emphasized that each decision will be made based on the current and future economic conditions and information. Thus, the market participants should not anticipate central bank to deliver similar decisions at the upcoming meetings. The labor market and inflation considerations. The Federal Reserve has also paid a keen interest to the labor markets, leading to this rate cut that just happened. As the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell pointed out, although job creation has not done too well in the past few months, the labor market is still very close to full capacity. However, the Fed is keeping a close eye on these trends, as the sharp decline in job growth could be inactive of economic decline. The concurrently inflation remains the primary concern for the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC. The Fed chairman stated that according to the PCE, price index inflation is projected to decline to 2.2% in August from 2.5% in July. This action takes inflation rates near to the Fed's 2% target, thus strengthening the Fed's stance on the policy adjustments. Despite the positive signs, some experts worry that the Fed might be acting too quickly on interest rates. They argue that the US economy remains robust, with unemployment still relatively low, and that the further easing could spark unnecessary risk, such as an asset bubbles or overheating in certain areas and sectors. Nevertheless, Jerome Powell maintained that the Fed's approach has been patient, and that its decision to cut interest rates reflects his confidence in inflation's steady, active, and decline. Economists evaluated the situation after the Fed's 50 basis points rate cut. What do they expect? Following the Fed's 50 basis points rate cut and the subsequent press conference by the Fed Jerome Powell, economists and analysts had mixed reactions to the move. Brad Bitchell, the global head of foreign exchange, said that the Fed's decision comes as a surprise to much in the market. Expectations were split from the beginning, about 50% ahead of the decision. Essentially, Brad went on to say that the Fed is trying to head off a recession, but the market response has been lukewarm so far. Much of that reaction has already been priced in. In other words, by priced in, they mean because there was too many essentially. So JP Morgan, Wisdom Tree, Franklin Templeton, Goldman Sachs, the list goes on about the executives and board members and analysts from these high-profile institutions that have came out and said 25 basis points or 50 basis points. Nobody was really leaning towards 75 basis points unless it was Senator Elizabeth Warren. But in terms of priced in other words, they saw it coming. Was that 25 or 50? Not more than that. Jerome Powell's comments at the press conference reinforced the perception that he personally favors a larger rate cut. We've made a good, strong start on the rate cuts. I'm very happy that we've done that. Jerome Powell said a statement that was interpreted by some analysts as confirmation that Jerome Powell was pushing for 50 basis point cuts in hopes of gaining broader committee support. A key factor in Jerome Powell's decision-making process appeared to be the Beige Book report, which painted a picture of the US economy of being okay. Analysts noted that Jerome Powell has historically relied on the Beige Book for economic guidance, and that it likely played a significant role in the Fed's decision to adopt a more dovish stance. The new bond king, essentially Jeffrey, expressed caution, saying that while the bond markets does not support aggressive easing policies, the Fed may have room for further cuts. He also went on to say that he suggested that another 50 basis point cut could be possible in November after the US elections, given current economic data and Jerome Powell's statements that the economy is not under significant pressure. On the political front, US Senator Elizabeth Warren has also been often criticized in terms of Jerome Powell's approach to monetary policies and voiced her displeasure. Senator Elizabeth Warren wants recession. Senator Elizabeth Warren wants a recession, but Jerome Powell is easing into that scenario. Jerome Powell was too late to lower the interest rates, Elizabeth Warren said. While this rate cut provides some relief, more reductions are needed to support consumers and homeowners. As if, Senator Elizabeth Warren is worried about homeowners. I mean, she is one greedy person in terms of, but most politicians are, to be fair. But on that basis, a lot of people have given their perspectives on Jerome Powell's 50 basis cuts. Jerome Powell actually even came out and said that the central bank should not be giving opinions to the Fed at all, in terms of the central bank should not be giving opinions to Jerome Powell in terms of what he should be doing with rate cuts, and that he's in charge, and he doesn't understand why too many people are giving him opinions when he understands the market better than everybody else, according to his own words. But him doing essentially 50 basis points could lead to another 50 basis points if he's going to be doing this. And if he continues down this path, then we're going to be heading towards some sort of a bubble. And if we head towards a bubble, that bubble is going to burst. This could be an indication of why Warren Buffett about 3 weeks ago decided to take 25% of his assets into cash reserves, to turn them into cash reserves. Same thing he did back in 2005. And then 2008, we had that massive bubble crash, which the market went. So reasons why Warren Buffett essentially took out 25% in cash reserves and sold off his Apple shares and his Bank of American shares and so on and so on. You could say he was preparing for a scenario like this. Now, the next rate cut most likely is going to be, what they're indicating is going to be around November time. So election times is going to be the next rate cut. Jerome Powell seems to be leaning towards more heavy rate cuts by the looks of it, because he didn't go for 25 basis points. After all this waiting, he didn't go tiptoeing in with 25 basis points. He went head first for 50 basis points. And according to his speech, he's ready for more heavy, deep cuts. If he continues with deep cuts, the market's going to tank. And that's when we see crypto markets playing their role of hedging against inflation, hopefully, because so far they've been struggling to hedge against inflation. But for the crypto markets in general right now, it seems positive. It seems positive for the time being. The markets should react. They did react in a slight positive way. They haven't reacted in a drastic positive way yet, but they should start looking positive in terms of what's just happened. But let's see within a week's time or 2 weeks time or a month time, or essentially November times is when the election time is going to be, how it's going to play out, because November apparently is going to be his next rate cut coming on the play. So let's see how things plan out. But for the time being, it seems positive-ish, without a doubt. But, he is lying at the same time. As I said before, they do play around with the numbers. Him stating that the American economy is strong. I mean, I'll be honest, no economy is strong right now. There's no single economy on this planet that's, doing well for themselves. Some economies are doing better than others, but there's no economy right now that's doing strong whatsoever. And the EU's economy is doing terrible. China's economy is doing terrible. Russia's economy is doing okay. Japan's economy is doing terrible. The US is doing terrible. Canada's doing terrible. The UK is doing terrible. Every economy, prices are through the roof. Inflation is through the roof. Houses are through the roof. Groceries are through the roof. Gas is through the roof. Electricity is through the roof. So as I said before, in reality, it's a different story. On paper, according to Jerome Powell, it's tip-top conditions. But look, they're not going to put us through a recession. We're going to voting. Because we're going to voting, we're not going to go into recession. It just doesn't make sense. There's no common sense about it. But after this election is done and a little bit of time passes, we could be headed towards a bubble that's going to burst eventually. Hence why Warren Buffett decided to take out 25% of his cash reserves about 3 weeks ago, before the Fed came out with 50 basis points. But so far, good. I mean, if the traditional markets collapse, then crypto should be seen as a hedge. Not all cryptocurrencies, obviously. Obviously, when if we do have a collapse in traditional market spaces, the people who see the collapse coming are going to have cash reserves to enter into an alternative asset to hedge against inflation. Some people will enter into gold, some people will enter into silver, some people will enter into Bitcoin, some people will enter into alternative cryptocurrencies to hedge against inflation. So the ones that see a bubble coming about to burst will start having some cash reserves to jump inside the market space at that particular moment in time. Some people don't see a recession coming whatsoever. I mean, Michael Saylor, he doesn't see a recession coming at all. He's just scooping up Bitcoin in billions of dollars every transaction. So some people don't see essentially any sort of bubble or recession heading our way. Some people do see a bubble or recession heading our way. Warren Buffett and a few other high-profile executives that have cash money ready for just-in-case purposes. But if we do have a bubble burst, if they do see it coming, if majority of investors in Wall Street or the retail section see that we're heading towards a recession, they will be better prepared, and the crypto market should seem positive to that moment in time. I mean, crypto is seen as a hedge against inflation. Not all cryptocurrencies, again. Some cryptocurrencies are seen as a hedge against inflation. But some people prefer gold at that moment in time as well. So keep that under consideration as well. But that's when we're supposed to see crypto shine. What was Bitcoin's first purpose? Bitcoin's first purpose was to hedge against inflation. So when that bubble comes to burst, if it does, let's see if Bitcoin is going to do its job well. So far, Bitcoin has just been following the stock markets. Or, as I said, this bubble that's going to burst, is it because it's bursting to go into a new financial system? Is that outcome? There's a few outcomes on the table. But so far, good. Okay, the next news. Moving on from the Fed reports news, we're going to talk about TON network, the TON ecosystem, which just got a $30 million investment into it, which is a lot. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Once again, this is a live show, so get involved inside the comment section if you want. If you have any questions, don't be shy. If you are new inside the crypto space, if you're a pro inside the crypto space, don't be shy. Get involved inside the comment section. I love it when everyone gets involved. Let's go through the comment section, and then we go through the next news. We have a lot of news to cover on tonight's live show, a lot of vital information for you to know about regarding Bank of International Settlements, JP Morgan, Wisdom Tree. There's a lot of things happening around the world we have to go through. In terms of Australia, there's a lot to go through. But let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go back to the news. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. That's how busy we were. We think it's Monday every day. That was a joke. Phantom migrated to Sonic. My Phantom is on cold wallet. Do I need to move it to an exchange or not? Yes. If your Phantom is on a cold wallet, most likely you won't be able to migrate it. So you have to keep it on exchange for that to happen. Most likely it's going to be Binance exchange as well. Binance does all the transfers, the migrations, and the airdrops in most cases. I've reduced my crypto holdings to XRP, XLM, XDC, ACH, HBAR, and SUI, waiting for the bull run. Let's go, Scott. Amazing portfolio, no doubt about it. Yo, Miles, how you doing? Knox, how you doing? Another great day to assemble wisdom from Miles. Let's go, healthy way you. How you doing? Stormy, Genos, let's go. Stormy, good to see you as well. How you doing? Carol, hello, Miles and CMF, good to see you as well. How you doing? Ray One, good to see you as well. How you doing? So, what about Tom Clicker? Which crypto project is that? Is that a random meme coin? If it's a meme coin, then it's a high risk asset. So pretty much has no future. And one day it might go up, and in most cases it will just go back down. 2020 rate cut, 2021 bull run, 2024 rate cut, 2024 bull run. Let's go, Joseph. But you've also got to consider regarding the regulations and the policies and the banks getting ready. So other things can make the market become bullish and activated. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? Fantastic news. And it's true. We go this. Let's go. I agree with that. Let's go, Dazzle. Do you see a recession coming our way, Miles? I would say consider a recession as an outcome, without a doubt. But it's not the outcome. It's an outcome to consider. I think the next downside will ignite from the real estate bubble. Well, to be fair, 2008 was the real estate bubble. So back in 2008, it was basically the real estate bubble. The bankers How it worked back in 2008 was the bankers at the bottom were giving out too many loans and too many mortgages to people who can't afford it. The middle was doing the same thing, and the top was doing the same thing in terms of the banking scale. High-profile bankers, mid-range bankers, and low bankers were just handing out properties like they were handing out free samples. And because they handed out too many properties like they were free samples, we had a massive real estate bubble crash. And that was basically 2008 scenario. In terms of 2024 being the real estate market that crashes as well, there's other real estate, without a doubt, is a bit of a risky, touchy subject because China's real estate market space is doing terrible. China's talked about it once or twice this year, and recently they did talk about it as well. I mean, France, for example, their real estate market space is doing terrible as well. About 1,200 real estate agencies have closed down in France so far this year, particularly. They see no market in real estate whatsoever. People don't have enough money to buy properties, and there's too many agencies in France closing down. And the properties that are for sale, they don't know what to do with them because nobody's going to be buying them. So France is having an issue right now, but the EU in general is also having a real estate bubble issue. So is China, so is the US, so is the UK, to be fairly honest. And a few other countries on that list as well. So we could have another real estate bubble crash, which will damage the economy quite a bit. But we can also have a financial bubble bursting as well with the inflation issue in terms of too much printing. That could be a scenario as well. But there's a few outcomes on the table. But no one's talking about it. True, very true. Yes, we are, and it will transpire. Let's go, Dazzle. BTC following stock market is up 300% since last year. It is. Okay, let me clarify what I said regarding BTC following the stock market. Okay, Chozo, let me just clarify what I meant regarding BTC following the stock market. In terms of when Jerome Powell speaks, when the Fed speaks in general, where central banks speak, when they speak positive about the market space, Bitcoin and the stock market follow each other. When they talk negative, Bitcoin reacts the same way the stock market does, which goes sideways. Okay, Bitcoin's main problem, not saying Bitcoin hasn't done well. It's the best performing asset alongside gold, to be fairly honest, without a doubt. But I said Bitcoin's main goal was what? Hedge against inflation. But every time we had a bubble type of scenario burst, or a major corporation or a major company or a country doing rate cuts, or a country going through some turbulence. For example, Japan was going through turbulence and Bitcoin didn't react in a positive way to hedge against that. Instead, it followed the stock market and tanked. Not tanked, but it went down instead of going back up again. We had the same scenario with the Chinese real estate company that took down half the stock market with it, and also Bitcoin down with it as well. Again, it didn't have that much of a drastic going head first, but what I am trying to say is when a massive real estate company bursts and takes down half the stock market, when the Japanese banks are going through turbulence, when the American banks are going through turbulence, when the EU banks are going through turbulence, or when a massive real estate bubble bursts inside of the EU, Bitcoin tends to follow the stock market. By just stock market goes down, Bitcoin follows it with it. So clarifying that, as in it's supposed to hedge against it. So when a Chinese real estate company bursts, stock market goes head first, Bitcoin should be going up. It should be hedging against that. Or when a Japanese banks are having turbulence issues, stock market goes down, Bitcoin should be going up, hedging against that, is what I'm trying to say. Not saying it's a terrible asset or hasn't performed good. It's performed one of the best assets, one of the best performing assets out there in general. But I'm saying the timing of that scenario is a bit weird. The main core purpose was hedge against scenarios like this. Instead, when scenarios like this happen, it tends to follow the stock market by going down instead of going up. Japanese turbulence banks happen, stock market goes down, Bitcoin should be going up. Real estate market company crashes in China, stock market goes down, Bitcoin should be going up. Real estate market inside of France crashes, essentially stock market goes down, Bitcoin should be going up. In terms of dollar having inflation issues, Bitcoin should be going up. But instead, what does it do? It follows the stock market. So that's me clarifying that issue in terms of its main core purpose was to go against these types of scenarios. I'm not saying it's a bad asset. I'm not saying it hasn't done well. It's done extremely well for itself. It's one of the best performing assets out there, not even just according to me, according to the bank, according to BlackRock as well, BlackRock advisors, and alongside gold and so on in terms of a great asset, performing asset. But I'm saying the reason it was created for was to hedge against scenarios like this. Instead, when scenarios like this happen, it does the opposite. That's what I was trying to say. So that's me clarifying it. Glenda, good to see you. So how you doing? What else? Good to see you. How you? I'm Joseph, and I'm hoping that was a good clarification on that matter. I have not been here for a while. I have no energy left. GCSE work is stressing me out. I hope Miles and CMF are well. I'm back on the weekends. Let's go, Woodhouse. So, Joseph, are we on the same page now? Hi, Miles and family. Have I missed much? We talked about the Fed rate cuts, how so far seems positive-ish. No doubt about it. Now, Ton's network secures a $30 million investment from BitGet and Foresight Ventures. Ton's ecosystem is one ecosystem that a lot of people should be looking into. If you already haven't, research into it. It's, because it's alongside Telegram, and Telegram is becoming an everything app. Ton's ecosystem is basically what's attached to. And I said this before, X becoming an everything app, where if you want to book a ride, if you want to book a restaurant, if you want to book a bar, book a gym, whatever you want to do, you can do through X later on, is what Elon Musk is aiming for, an everything app. Telegram is also aiming for an everything app. You can book, essentially restaurants through Telegram by, ordering from the menu, sitting in the restaurant, or order a taxi on Telegram. You can do a lot of things depending on which country you live in, which jurisdiction you're in, through a Telegram app. And the only ecosystem that they will ever use in their entire lifetime is Ton ecosystem, because Telegram developed it, dropped it before they got sued and partnered with it as a loophole. So, Ton's network just received a $30 million investment. BitGet, a leading crypto exchange, and Foresight Ventures, a leading investment firm, announced a joint $30 million investment into the Ton ecosystem blockchain today. According to the statement, the investment aimed to enhance Telegram's based projects with specific focus on click-to-earn games like Notecoin, Hamster Combat, and some other features. The joint statement attributed Ton's rapid growth to Telegram's over 900 million users in 2024. BitGet and Foresight claimed that the Ton blockchain had grown to tenfold in terms of the DEX trading volumes, ecosystem TVL on-chain transactions, leading to the trending DApps like what they have going on Telegram. BitGet and Foresight fueled Ton's growth with a more say on its governance. The joint statement asserted that the recent surge in Ton's ecosystem performance represented the biggest crypto opportunity growth in 2024 and the next 5 years. DeFi Llama data showed that Ton's TVL had risen by over 2,700% since January 1st, 2024 to $403.86 million. The co-founder and CEO of Foresight Ventures stated that the partnership would continue supporting Ton's ecosystem developers by providing market support, investment, and so on. BitGet and Foresight expressed their interest in engaging deeply within the Ton blockchain governance and plans for future developments of emerging blockbuster DApps within the ecosystem. According to the BitGet, essentially commitments to Ton's growth came at a time when its focus on the ecosystem development and service expansions saw its user base increase to 45 million in Q3 of 2024. The crypto exchange disclosed that this increased performance was partly due to the surge in demand for the innovative projects like BitGet's decentralized wallet for Ton users. As BitGet continues to build around the open network, our partnerships with Ton's blockchain provides a solid foundation for driving innovation that aligns with our vision, said Gracie Chen, the CEO of BitGet. BitGet and Foresight elaborated that integrating their combined expertise in crypto infrastructure with Ton's decentralized architecture positioned the collaboration well. It strengthened the developments of innovative solutions and products. Together, the three giants hope to bring mass adoption for crypto industries like never before on Ton's ecosystem. BitGet experiences growth in 2024. According to a statement of a press release that was released today from BitGet, the crypto exchange's achievements in 2024 positioned it among the top 4 crypto exchanges by volume, an increase of its total transactions volume by 50%. BitGet disclosed that it had recorded significant growth in Southeast Asia, about 216%, in Africa, about 1,616%, and in South Asia, about 729%. The platform also witnessed an increase in traffic by 50% in total of asset flows of approximately $700 million in the first half of 2024. The BitGet CEO affirmed that BitGet's growth resulted with continuous innovation supported by best products teams and engineers in strong workforce, about 1,500 talents. In addition to the business growth, BitGet said that this also will committed to an impactful CSR, which is corporate social responsibility initiatives like Blockchain for Her and Blockchain for Youth. But what I'm more interested in is that Ton just received the Ton Ecosystem Foundation just received $30 million to not put it inside their pockets, but $30 million to invest in the Ton ecosystem. Now, Telegram has a mini app section. The same way your iPhone has an app store or your Android phone has a Google Play Store, Telegram has basically a mini app section where it's all Web3 based. That $30 million is going to go into that section, and more app developments are going to be happening on the Ton ecosystem, which brings in more users from Telegram to use that Web3 app section inside of Telegram, which is great for Ton. So if you're holding Ton, this is amazing news for Ton, because that $30 million is about to go straight into app development. Not all of it is going to, not as in all of it is, but it's going to be spread across multiple apps, Web3 apps that are going to be built for Telegram on the Ton ecosystem for Telegram users to use, and about 900 million users that is. Eventually, everyone on Telegram is going to be using Ton's ecosystem, is what they're aiming for. So by introducing a multitude of apps to cover all areas, they're going to get everyone eventually from Telegram, 900 million users to 1 billion users, using Ton's ecosystem on Telegram, which means, again, if you're holding Ton, it's amazing news, brilliant news. Now, BlackRock is what we're going to talk about now. BlackRock, managing $9 trillion in assets, has now just issued a new statement about Bitcoin. So there's a statement coming from BlackRock about Bitcoin that they just basically released today. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, has published a detailed white paper highlighting Bitcoin as a unique, in terms of its unique qualities as a hedge against global risks. So, Chosa, in other words, this is what BlackRock is talking about regarding Bitcoin should be the #1 asset to hedge against global risks. Following the success of its spot Bitcoin ETF, which has assumed $21 billion in assets since its launch earlier this year, BlackRock has now outlined Bitcoin's role as a unique diversifier in a new, essentially 9-page report. Bitcoin, which has a market value of over $1 trillion, stands out in BlackRock's analysis because of its low correlation with US stocks and interest rates. So not complete, essentially, correlation, but has some sort of still following with the stock markets and interest rates, which the firm argues makes it difficult to analyze the traditional financial models. Bitcoin reflects a little underlying exposure to macroeconomic factors that affect most traditional asset classes. Even from BlackRock's own words, Bitcoin still does, in their own words, little, but it still follows macroeconomic events in terms of following the stock market. When a real estate company goes sideways or Japan has turbulence issues, instead of hedging against it, it goes the other way. Despite its reputation as a volatile and risky asset, BlackRock still notes that Bitcoin has outperformed all major asset classes in the 7 or last 10 years, which is factual, which is why I said it's not a terrible asset, it's a great asset. It's one of the best performing assets alongside gold. That's a given and a fact. However, it has been the worst performing asset in the 3 years it has underperformed. This volatility reflects Bitcoin's evolving journey towards a potential global adoption as a monetary alternative, the report said. This is a report coming from BlackRock themselves. BlackRock has also highlights Bitcoin's potential as a flight to safety. During times of geopolitical uncertainties, the report suggests that Bitcoin's relative isolation from global macroeconomic factors could make it more attractive to investors seeking protection against events such as weakening US dollar due to raising federal deficiencies. Yes, if we do have, and this is what I was saying at the beginning of the live show as well, that if we do have a bubble burst as one of the outcomes, and we might be heading towards a recession, not now, after the elections, whatever it's going to be, but after the elections, if we do head towards an inflation, I said that's the time for some crypto assets to shine. Basically, the majority of investors see a recession coming, they can have cash reserves and jump in for assets that are going to be hedging against inflation. Some might go for gold, but crypto will be the better option in that scenario. So that's why I said, let's see how things will play out in terms of if we do have a recession, is crypto going to play the part finally it's supposed to, which is hedge against scenarios like that, which is exactly what BlackRock's saying as well, in terms of, are they going to be playing, is it going to be playing the role that it's supposed to, instead of following macroeconomic events. Now, but even BlackRock stating it's one of the best performing assets out there. Facts, it is. I said this as well. It's one of the best performing assets out there. It's as good as gold in terms of the market space. But there are some characteristics of why is it doing that when it's supposed to be doing the other thing. But it also goes back to who's controlling it in terms of who has the most asset play. I mean, the retail section, there's a study test that was done where who owns the most amount of Bitcoins? Is it, the retail section? Is it the institutions? Is it the governments? So the reason why Bitcoin or certain crypto assets aren't playing the roles they should be playing is because look at who's holding them. When it comes to Bitcoin, there's a lot of governments holding it. There's a lot of institutions holding it. And these governments are, the US government, the UK government, and the Canadian government, the Australian government, the Japanese government, the South Korean government, the North Korean government, Russia's government, China's government. Russia's apparently not being, accurate on the amount of Bitcoin they're holding. They've released some sort of white paper of how much Bitcoin they're holding, but it's not the real numbers, apparently. According to some American sources, that Russia's not really showing how many Bitcoins they actually own. But in Iran, essentially, Iran's government holding Bitcoin. If you look at who's holding Bitcoin, you can kind of tell why it's so manipulated in certain times and moments like that. But also the report stated that the retail section are the biggest holders compared to the institutions and the governments, which is an absolute load of BS. Because what the report didn't indicate is who are the wallet holders. So the report estimated that everybody that has a Bitcoin wallet from a long time ago is all retail section, which is inaccurate information. Because how do you know those wallets don't belong to institutions? These doormat wallets on the news or on X, you'll keep on seeing these tweets or these news articles coming out and saying, this doormat wallet that was not used for 5 years, it suddenly turned on. This doormat wallet that wasn't used for 7 years suddenly turned on with Ethereum or with Bitcoin and so on. How do you know that essentially institutions or hedge funds and so on, or governments weren't in play a long time ago? Because we don't know who those wallets belong to. There's no names belonging to those wallets. We don't know if it belongs to Steve or if it belongs to the US Department. So the report was not very accurate when it came to the retail section because you don't know who those wallets belong to, assuming that every single wallet before the institutions came into play is all retail section wallet is dumb because that's inaccurate information and you don't know who those wallets belong to beforehand. So these doormat wallets that are coming out of nowhere, are they retail section wallets or are they essentially government wallets or are they institutional wallets? We don't know because there's no names attached to them. So that's why that report that came out and said retail section has most Bitcoins, but they based it on the wallets in the retail section. They assumed it was retail section from a long time ago, but you don't know who those wallets belong to. There's no names attached to them. But the ones that we do know that names are attached to them is in the S1 filings. So that's accurate information regarding the institutions in play. Now, BRICS is what we're going to talk about on tonight's live show. It's coming. Let's go, Dazzle, regarding a recession. BRICS, the Russian foreign minister issues a direct challenge to Western currencies. The global financial landscape might be on the verge of undergoing a major upheaval. The economic sanctions imposed by Western powers multiply. The BRICS are gearing up to launch an alternative payment system capable of bypassing the dollar and the euro. An initiative of that, if successful, could redefine the global economics order and offer a new path to nations eager to free themselves from Western geopolitical pressures. The BRICS essentially created their own systems that does go against the euro and dollars. Now, we don't know what the BRICS is relatively doing, but we can take guesses in terms of the Bank of International Settlements because all the BRICS nations are a part of the Bank of International Settlements. Now, during a press conference in Moscow, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei confirmed that the BRICS are in the process of creating an alternative payment system to the dollar and the euro. According to Sergei, many countries are attracted to the payment platform developed within the BRICS nations, which should allow for trade, investment, and other economic operations without being dependent on those who have decided to militarize the dollar and the euro. This statement comes as an economic sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union push nations to seek alternatives to Western currencies. Sergei clarifies that this payment system will not only be used for commercial transactions, but also to facilitate investments and other financial operations. With this initiative, the de-dollarization of emerging economies is on the way. Facing growing threat of economic sanctions, the BRICS seeks to offer a secure framework for countries that wish to escape the grip of dominant currencies. The project also aims to strengthen economic cooperations within the BRICS, is to reduce its members' dependency on Western financial structures, a new global financial paradigm. The BRICS announcement goes beyond a simple rejection of a dollar and the euro. Now, the interesting part is before, the BRICS nations said, we're going against the dollar, we're going against the dollar. According to Russia's finance ministry that did essentially an interview today, that Sergio, according to him, they're not just going against the dollar, they're also going against the euro. So indeed, Sergio emphasized that this alternative financial platform is a direct response to the increasing use of sanctions as a geopolitical tool by the United States and Europe. No one wants to find themselves in a situation where they could be sanctioned by the United States or Western powers, he said on the interview. As a result, many emerging economies see this platform as an opportunity to strengthen their economic sovereignty and avoid the risk associated with Western currencies. Once launched, the system will transform international financial transactions and facilitate exchange between BRICS countries and their partners without going through traditional currencies. The geopolitical implications of this decision are considerable. If the BRICS payment system gains popularity, it could redefine the way global financial transactions are conducted. Such as situations could potentially weaken the dominance of the dollar in traditional trade. The impact on traditional financial markets, notably those of the United States and Europe, could be significant as more countries may follow suit and turn away from Western currencies. The BRICS initiatives to develop an alternative to payment systems dominated by the dollar and the euro could reshape the way international transactions are conducted. If this new system indeed attracts emerging economies, it could accelerate the ongoing de-dollarization and weakening the dominant position of the dollar on the global stage. So Sergey does, the Russian finance minister does an interview, and he talks about how BRICS' payment system that's going to be coming out very soon, that they're going to be making an announcement. Also, the BRICS summit that's coming up this year, they're going to make major announcements on their payment systems and which other countries have decided to join BRICS once again. But they're not just stating that it's going up against the dollar, but now they're also stating it's going up against the dollar and the euro. Now, they didn't mention the currencies, but you can also take a guess it's going up against every currency, in other words, the BRICS nations. But are they going to be successful is the main question. Is BRICS going to become successful with creating their own currency, with not their own currency, but creating their own payment system for them to do their own trades? Is it going to be possible? Look, the issue is, do you know what? Okay, one main issue with the traditional system, which is SWIFT, is that it's not a payment tool, it's a political tool. Now, one issue with BRICS is that the BRICS nations assume they're only going to be doing trade with each other, is the issue here. The BRICS nations need to do trade with the US, they need to trade with the EU, they need to trade with the UK, they need to trade with Australia, they need to trade with Latin American countries. So the issue with the BRICS payment system is not everybody's going to be on it. So it's going to become a useless payment system unless they start trading between themselves and decide to sanction the West, which wouldn't work out too well because you know how the West reacts when they get left behind. The West doesn't really like it when they get left behind. So that wouldn't end too well. So a major issue with SWIFT's payment system is, yes, SWIFT is not a payment tool, it's a political tool where it sanctions countries. And that's the biggest drawback to SWIFT. And, you know, the slow payment system and the expensive payment system, yes, that's a drawback to SWIFT. But no country cares about that. They've been using it for years. The main issue with SWIFT was it's not a payment tool, it's a political tool that sanctions countries. That's the biggest drawback to SWIFT. The biggest drawback to BRICS nations is, are the BRICS nations expecting to only trade with each other? If they are, that's a failing tool. And if they're planning on leaving the West behind in some sort of a sanction way, that's not going to end too well. So the biggest drawback to BRICS is, how's that going to work? So is China only going to be trading with essentially Russia, Russia with India, and India back to China, Russia, and a few other BRICS countries are going to be, or let's just say 50 BRICS countries start trading with each other. The majority of them are useless. And the majority of them are controlled by other countries in play. For example, France controls a drastic amount of Africa, for example. Or the UK controls a few other countries in play as well. America controls a ridiculous amount of countries due to the amount of debt they owe in America. So the biggest drawback to this whole BRICS payment system is, how is it going to work? Are they just going to planning on trading with each other? For how long? Because America is providing what essentially computer chips. They're providing parts, or they're providing software. They're providing, there's so much things that the Americans are providing to the world. Forget the dollar. They're providing so much more than that. The UK is providing, the EU is providing. The EU is one of the biggest market spaces. America is one of the biggest market spaces. So how's China expected to, after having a BRICS system, how's China going to do business with the EU, one of the biggest market spaces, or with America, one of the biggest market spaces? So that's the biggest drawback to BRICS. Their payment system is too, isolated. BRICS' payment system is going to be too isolated. And the only countries that actually have something to offer in BRICS, Russia has something to offer in terms of gas, oil, and essentially agriculture. China has on the same scenario as well. India has on the same scenario as well. Brazil has some other resources. South Africa has some resources. Iran has oil services and gas services and so on to provide the BRICS nations. Saudi Arabia, if they do join, have oil and gas going on as well. But the rest of the nations joining BRICS, they have nothing to offer. And the majority of them owe money to the US. So this whole payment system of BRICS, there are many drawbacks. Because everybody talks about the positives of BRICS. BRICS is this and BRICS is that. But there are drawbacks to BRICS as payment system. Biggest drawback is too isolated. Because if they're planning on using a payment system that's only for them, how are they going to be planning on selling to the EU? How is China going to sell its products to the EU? How is China going to sell its products to the Americans? Because they can't do it through BRICS, because they're not part of BRICS. So what, they're still going to use the US dollar? If they're going to still planning on using the US dollar to trade with America, or to trade with essentially the UK, or trade with the EU, then what's the point of a BRICS system? If they're going to still use the dollar to trade outside of BRICS with dollar, and then within BRICS with BRICS, it's a ridiculous payment system. So biggest drawback to BRICS, it's too isolated. It's one group, and that's pretty much it. And everybody else around it is actually one of the biggest market spaces that aren't inside BRICS. So that's one drawback to BRICS. It's too isolated. It's just one group, a collective group, that some have services to offer in terms of, agriculture or oil or gas, but the rest of them are useless in terms of entering the BRICS. And the majority of them owe money to the US. So they're in debt to the US. And if the US feels like it's getting left behind of BRICS, do you think the West is going to just sit there and take it? Because imagine for a second the roles are reversed. The BRICS system sanctions the West. How do you think that's going to play out? So BRICS seems to be an economic disaster for the time being, because it's too isolated. It's just one particular group that some provide some sort of services. The rest are just useless countries that owe money to the US. So there are many drawbacks to BRICS as well that you need to consider. BRICS is a brink. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Tor, good to see you. How you doing? Good morning, Miles and CMF. Ghost Runner, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? So that's a big drawback to BRICS, because they can't just plan on doing business with each other, because they're missing out one of the world's biggest market spaces. And if they're going to planning on doing business outside of BRICS, they're going to use the dollar. So what happened to moving away from the dollar? The issue is they can never move away from the dollar unless America moves away from the dollar. The only way the world, genuinely, the only way the world can move away from the dollar is if America moves away from the dollar. That's the only way the entire world can move away from the dollar, if the US moves away from the fiat of dollar. If the US does that, it goes to a digital payment, then the world can also follow as well. That's the only way. Genuinely the only way. It's the only common sense way out there. The US has to move away from this traditional, essentially fiat of the US dollar, go to a digital payment for the rest of the world to follow it. Otherwise, if BRICS kickstarts themselves with a new payment system, how are they planning on doing business with countries outside of BRICS, which are the biggest market spaces? They have to use the US dollar, which goes against the whole de-dollarization plan. So that's a one drawback to BRICS right there. So the only way the world genuinely can move away from the dollar is if America steps away from it first. Not as in but moving to a digital payment system is what I'm trying to say. Not moving away from money entirely, no. Moving away to a digital payment system instead. That's the only way. However you look at it, however you look at this scenario, America is still going to be sitting at that seat by the looks of it. However you look at it, America is still going to be sitting in that seat. Now, Revolut. Revolut launches its stablecoin is this kind of crypto instability suit. So Revolut Bank, everybody knows about Revolut Bank. They're actually launching their own stablecoin, which it's becoming a theme right now, where every company is deciding to release their own stablecoin, which it comes to the conclusion of how many stablecoins do we really need inside the crypto space? But either way, it's a step forward inside the digital world is what matters. Revolut, the famous British fintech bank, has recently announced its intentions to launch its own stablecoin, essentially marking a new step in its expansion into the crypto field. This initiative aims to offer its users a stable and reliable alternative in an often volatile universe of cryptocurrencies. Revolut bets on stability by launching its own stablecoin. Revolut's stablecoin will be backed by a fiat currency, probably the US dollar or the euro, to minimize value fluctuations. This approach will allow users to benefit from security and stability of traditional currencies while enjoying the advantages of crypto. Crypto transactions such as high speeds and low transaction cost. One of Revolut's main objectives with this initiative is to strengthen users' confidence in cryptocurrencies. By adapting a compliance-focused approach, Revolut aims to become a safe haven for the entire crypto community. The fintech will implement a strict compliance and security measures for essentially compliant regarding the FCA, especially inside the United Kingdom, in terms of regulations. This includes regular audits and full transparency of their reserves supporting their stablecoin. An international payment system thanks to crypto is what Revolut said. Revolut already has sold and diversified user base. With millions of customers worldwide, the introduction of its own stablecoin could attract even more users to its platform, especially those seeking stable and secure digital payment solutions. In addition, this crypto could be used to facilitate international payments, money transfers, and even investments, which offers a full range of financial services to its users. The launch of Revolut's stablecoin represents a significant advancement in the fintech and crypto world. By combining the stability of fiat currencies with the advantages of crypto transactions, Revolut could redefine the way we perceive and use digital money. This initiative could also shape and encourage other players in the sector to follow the same path, thus contributing to a wider and more secure adoption of cryptocurrencies worldwide. But amazing news in terms of Revolut introducing their own stablecoin. It's great to see companies, getting involved inside the blockchain space. But I think it's just going to be another stablecoin like PayPal stablecoin. Nobody really uses PayPal stablecoin, let's just be fairly honest. The majority of the crypto space either uses USDT or USDC. Now, USDC is obviously more compliant than USDT. We've seen that with the EU MiCA regulations. But we also do have a third stablecoin coming inside the scene, which is from Ripple, which is going to be the better version of both of those put together. USDC has depegged once, not great, took 2 weeks for it to repeg. USDT has issues with transparency, and also not great in terms of a stablecoin. Ripple plays the role of full transparency and never depegging, which becomes alternatively the best option for a stablecoin, Ripple stablecoin. In terms of the other stablecoins inside the market space, so we have FUSD, or essentially PayPal stablecoin, Paxos stablecoin, and so on. They're not all at all. They're not doing any sort of numbers whatsoever. However, Revolut's stablecoin could do some numbers because Revolut is a major bank. They have millions of users worldwide. So they could probably do some numbers, definitely. Now, SEC. SEC boss issues a warning to crypto exchanges. Gary Gensler has decided to issue a warning to cryptocurrency exchanges once again. And before we go through that, let's go to the comment section first. Miles, I don't know why, but I see BTC and ETH as the front in the future, no utility, and see what. Okay. Miles, I don't know why, but I see Bitcoin and Ethereum as a front in the future. No utility, and see what we're all investing in is superior overall, i.e. the X's and Hedera, etc. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You're not wrong. I would say you're onto some. I would say you're onto something. You're not wrong in any sort of a way. They could. You never know. In terms of the financial market space, you never know. Miles, what about Casper and Cass a few weeks ago? I think when you communicated your entertaining thoughts, the following is what I took from the entertainment. On Casper and Cass. Yes, that's correct. That is correct regarding that matter. Cass has his abilities to grow in terms of the retail section, growing Cass. Casper has prospering future for itself. It's just a very slow future. So if you want to go for that long-term wise, on the sidelines. Do you know why he's saying this? Because he's getting pressured. The reason why Gary Gensler is saying this, yes, he is getting pressured. So, factual, yeah. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler has warned the so-called crypto exchanges that they must follow the rules. Till this day, we don't know what the rules are, to be fairly honest. Nobody, there's not a single blockchain institution or a traditional institution that knows what the rules are from the SEC. Nobody knows what the rules are. They haven't established any rules. So, but they keep on going on about, the Gary Gensler keeps on doing interviews and telling people, follow the rules. What rules? Nobody knows. The SEC is currently engaged in legal battles with such major exchanges as Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance. During an interview that happened today on CNBC with Gary Gensler, he stressed that the SEC would keep protecting the investing public. Gary Gensler went on CNBC and said that he is keep on protecting the public investments. Who are these people Gary Gensler is protecting? Genuinely, because it's not the first time Gary Gensler has went on CNBC and said he's protecting the average day investor. Who are these people you are protecting, Gary Gensler, inside the crypto space? Because all you've done is just caused harm inside the crypto space by suing anything with a pulse inside the crypto space to the ground, and sometimes lying about it to a federal judge. So nobody knows who are these people that Gary Gensler keeps on mentioning he's protecting inside the crypto space. He says this is a field that is rife with fraudsters and scammers and drifters. I mean, if you look at other market spaces, the crypto space doesn't seem that bad in terms of scammers and fraudsters. The SEC boss pointed to the fact that some of the biggest crypto figures from 2022 are now either in jail or waiting extradition. Gary Gensler, of course, was alluding to former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, former Binance CEO CZ, and Terra founder Do Kwon. The Terra founder Do Kwon, you could say there was some collusion going on there. CZ played his job perfectly. They just wanted a piece of the pie of Binance. And FTX was best buddies with Gary Gensler. Until this day, Congress has asked many times from Gary Gensler to share the talking points that was going on behind closed doors with Gary Gensler and Sam Bankman. And Gary Gensler refused to give those information out. But he keeps on mentioning there are bad figures inside the crypto space. With one of them, he was colluded. With the other one, Do Kwon, I could see why that went sideways. CZ, he was a amazing person for the crypto space. But they wanted a piece of the pie of Binance, or all of the pie of Binance, which they got. They replaced the CEOs of Binance with 2 World Economic Forum members. There were more US departments in Binance than ever before. So that one was a play. Gary Gensler has also stated that there was nothing incompatible about the field and basis protections inside the securities laws. If you store something on an accounting ledger, investors still need to have basic protection, he added. We do have basic protection when using a cold storage wallet. It's called seed phrases, which I'm guessing Gary Gensler also knows what they are, but is assuming to play a dumb role on CNBC. Gary Gensler used to teach blockchain education at MIT level. But now he's on CNBC and saying cloud storage wallets don't offer protection. Cloud storage offer seed phrases protection. That's one of the essentially that's one of the options of protecting your assets. There are many options of protecting your assets inside the crypto space, but apparently, according to Gary Gensler, it's not enough, and there's no basic protection either. While many industry leaders have been essentially clamoring on for regulatory clarity, Gary Gensler is convinced that there is already enough regulatory clarity, arguing that securities laws have worked for 90 years. Yes, when security laws were essentially invented, the blockchain industry wasn't. Web3 wasn't, AI wasn't, crypto wasn't, Bitcoin wasn't. So assuming that something applies 90 years ago to now is dumb. In general terms, it's actually dumb. The SEC anti-crypto policies have been criticized by some lawmakers with both parties. However, the agency approach also has some prominence on Capitol Hill, case pointing to Elizabeth Warren. Yes, Elizabeth Warren has been supporting Gary Gensler for quite a while right now. I mean, she's in the same pot as Gary Gensler, to be fairly honest as well. But with Gary Gensler mentioning that the regulations that we do already have provide clarity, no, they don't. If they did, there wouldn't be so many essentially court-suing battles going on and so forth. But do you know when you tell yourself a lie over and over again? If you tell yourself the same lie over and over and over again, you start believing in your own lie. Basically, what's going on with Gary Gensler, with him back-to-back on multiple interviews, pretty much every interview he does with CNBC or Bloomberg or with Fox, he repeats the same lie, where the regulations we have right now, we have regulatory clarity. We don't have regulatory clarity, but it's come to a stage where he's keep on repeating the same words to himself, where he started believing in his own lie, that we do have regulatory clarity. In reality, we don't. Hence why later on tonight's live show, we're going to talk about Gary Gensler in front of Congress, because Gary Gensler was in front of Congress today, and we have some points on the matter of what actually went down. Apparently, Gary Gensler was used as a punching bag. Not my words. The title was Gary Gensler was used as a punching bag in front of Congress when people were testifying against him today. But before we get to that, the next news talk on tonight's live show is Silvergate Capital. One of the most friendly crypto banks out there has just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Silvergate Capital files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Silvergate Capital Corporation, the parent company of Silvergate Bank, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy inside the United States. Bankruptcy courts for District of Delaware. According to a filing September 17th, the company has listed assets between $100 million and $500 million and liabilities ranging from $10 million to $50 million. The bankruptcy petition includes Silvergate's two affiliates, Silvergate Liquidation Corporation and Spring Valley Lots LLC. Silvergate's reorganization plan, filed as a part of its Chapter 11 bankruptcy, essentially proposes a fully paying several types of debts, including administrative fees, taxes, and other high priority claims like secured loans and professional fees. In contrast, certain claims related to common stocks and securities lawsuits would be completely cancelled. Debts between Silvergate's internal companies are proposed to be restrained, with performed stockholders receiving partial payments based on their shares. The bankruptcy filing comes 18 months after the crypto-friendly bank shut down operations aimed liquidation troubles in March 2023. Silvergate parent firm announced that it would voluntarily liquidate its subsidiaries, and that the crypto-armed Silvergate Bank at the time, the bank blamed the downfall on the challenges of the banking system due to its rising interest rates, along with regulatory scrutiny over the crypto companies following FTX's dramatic collapse essentially a few months before November 2022. The bank, known for its strong ties to the crypto industry, saw a sharp decline confidence after FTX's failure. In July, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filed a lawsuit against Silvergate Capital for allegedly helping to facilitate fraud at a defunct essentially exchange, FTX. Later that same month, in a separate enforcement action, the Federal Reserve Board dropped all charges against the bank. According to the announcement, this decision was a result of Silvergate successfully winding down its operations, reimbursing customers, and ceasing to operate as a bank. The company's bankruptcy is represented by the legal firm Richards, Layton and Finger, and the LLP company, with Alex Parros serving as the financial advisor. With the whole Silvergate situation, the crypto-friendly bank Silvergate getting liquidated essentially and bankruptcy claims, that's actually not bad news. There's a few cases inside the crypto space that need to come to an end and disappear for the market space to move on. The Silvergate situation that just happened regarding finally filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy is actually good news, because this needs to wind down Silvergate does need to wind down their operations. They need to start paying back people, essentially their investors' money and so on. And the financial markets can finally move on. So there are a few cases inside the crypto space that do need to, essentially end for the financial markets to move forward. One of those cases was the Ripple case, which they finally did move on. One of the other cases is the Coinbase case. That needs to go away as well. The Kraken case needs to go away as well. And not saying if they don't go away, the market doesn't move, but the market moves better if those cases go away. Silvergate finally filing for bankruptcy, that's actually not bad news, believe it or not. Now, SEC was beaten down by the Congress. So Congress, before we go through that news, let's go inside the comment section. But this news is relative to Gary Gensler today going head to head with Congress and some of his peers and people testifying against Gary Gensler's movements as the chairman of the SEC, which it didn't go too well. For Gary Gensler, it went incredibly bad. But let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go through that. But I'm the only one essentially that's talking about the inside the crypto space regarding Gary Gensler's congressional hearing today. I've been mentioning for a few nights now on this live show, getting up to this. And then now today this happened. So we're going to go through that. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were at. I'm very disappointed. No one in the same month says hello. In each note, feel outsider. Gary Gensler equals the weasel. Some research I've done, it seems HBHBAR and AROT actually a registered ISO 2020 project. No cryptocurrency is technically on the ISO list. However, Ripple is a part of the board. So no cryptocurrency is a part of the list. But if you go to Ripple's own website, I'll put that on the Telegram. I'll put that on the Telegram group as well regarding Ripple. So in terms of the ISO list, no cryptocurrency project is technically on the list. However, Ripple is a part of the board. So some research, rules from 1943. Basically, rules from 1943 regarding 90-year-old rules. Can I leverage trade on Kraken? Can you leverage trade on Kraken? Depends on jurisdiction, to be fairly honest. Gary's identifying himself. Miles, yes, JP. Evening, Miles and CMF. Sorry, I'm late. I will catch up what I've missed when I replay this live. Let's go. Joe, how you doing? Hi, Miles, CMF. It is time to turn on my CMF TV. Have you heard about Trump's attempt of assassination? Yes, I have. A lot of people are trying to attempt an assassination on Trump, which is ridiculous. That should not be the case in this world. Look, if you're against Trump or you're with Trump, this whole assassination thing, if you're an American in general, okay, if you hate the guy or like the guy, Trump, anybody trying to assassinate an American citizen, if you are an American citizen, and you respect your own country, you respect your own people, you respect your own citizens, in other words, if somebody does something to one of your citizens, no matter if in terms of the politician, I mean, if it's an awful person, I understand. If it's a weirdo, I understand. But in terms of, what's happening to Trump, some people are seeing this, there are people inside of multiple spaces in TikTok and on the news and so on. They're happy that these scenarios are happening to Trump. And they're American citizens, which it just baffles me. It doesn't matter if you like the person or not. It's an American citizen. It's an American citizen that's fighting for your rights, no matter how you see it. And how can you be cheering for that is what baffles me. Genuinely is what baffles me. How can you be cheering for that? There are some people that are actually cheering for that to happen. There were some people that were upset the first person missed, which again baffles me. So, to the people that are happy and ecstatic about what's happening to Trump, you need to get checked up by a doctor if you are happy that something like that is happening to your president or to your former president. So, those people are weird. If anybody's happy about these scenarios, you're a very weird person. You need to get checked by a doctor ASAP. And what's happening to him is not good whatsoever, at all. What happened to freedom and everybody has rights and everybody has freedom of choice? Well, one choice is about to go away if this keeps on continuing. These attempt situations keep on continuing. One choice is about to go away. So what happened to freedom of rights and so on? So when one party is doing very well, the other party has to take that person out. That's not the America that people know about. So that's wrong. Because if you stand, no matter what party you're in, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're a liberal, no matter what party you're in, fair game is fair game. Okay? Whoever wins, just take it on the chin. If it's not the person you don't want, if you don't want Trump, if you want Kamala, if you don't want Kamala, if you want Trump, whoever wins, just take it on the chin. But taking out the other person, that's wrong. No matter which party you're in, that's wrong. It's an American citizen, it's your former president, and that is wrong. And just because one side might be getting the edge over the other side, that doesn't give anybody the right to take away the competition. So there are people that are actually cheering for these scenarios that are happening, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the interesting part is, it's always the people that are cheering for these attempt situations. It's always the weak, pathetic people that are cheering for these types of scenarios. For example, Piers Morgan did essentially, he did, Piers Morgan has his own show, the Uncensored Piers Morgan. For example, he does this on YouTube as well. And he had a few guests on Piers Morgan had a few guests on his shows. And one of them was this Fruit Loops. Basically, this, I forgot his name. He has pink or purple hair. He's some guy in America. He's a YouTuber, if I'm not mistaken, and so on. But he was cheering on Piers Morgan's show. He was, sad that the first time attempt, the person missed Trump. And he's an American citizen. It's always, just to make it short, it's always the pathetic people, the weak people that are cheering for these types of scenarios. Because if you're a strong individual, you wouldn't be cheering for a scenario like that. So it's always the weak, pathetic people that tend to cheer for these weird scenarios. But, again, if you're an American citizen, no matter what party you're in, that's not a good thing. So that's what I would have to say on that matter. So whichever party it goes, just take it on the chin. But taking out the competition, that's dumb. That's extremely dumb. Don't take out the competition, because what happened to freedom of choice? Because if one side has a freedom of choice, the other side should have a freedom of choice as well. If liberals have a freedom of choice, then Republicans should have freedom of choice. If Democrats have freedom of choice, then liberals should have freedom. Everybody should have freedom of choice. So why is one side trying to take out the other side? It's freedom of choice, right? Freedom of rights, freedom of choice, freedom of votes. So what happened to that? And there are people, it just baffles me. But it's always the weak, pathetic people that are supporting scenarios like this. It's always the weak men. Always the weak, pathetic men that are supporting these scenarios. My two comments above it was, I was disappointed that we said hello to, what up, Miles and family? Ray, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? The Weasel and Trump drink from the same glass, because their own lies. One gets a pass and the other doesn't look them up. Gary Guess and Elizabeth Warren goes back to ATV MIT. That's why she's with him and got elected by Biden, which she was involved in. And now Biden will be heading out, and Gary has his job is gone. He seems like a bird, but he's out anyways. No matter what, he should have done this job from the start and not be so greedy. That's what it came down to, pretty much. I hope you can read between the lines. Yes, I can. We talked about Gary working at MIT last year. Elizabeth is so tight at MIT, which is also very factual. Elizabeth Warren is also very close with Sam Beckman's parents. Just want to point that one out as well. With Sam Beckman's parents' accountants. Let's go, Dazzle. Let's go, Stormy. It's staged. It's not staged. People who are saying Trump's assassination attempts was staged, it's not staged. You've got to understand what this man is going up against. It's not staged at all. What this guy is going up against is most people wouldn't do it. The average Joe person wouldn't be able to make it in politicians. In the politician world, the average person sitting at home will never be able to make it in the politics world because it's a ruthless space. But you don't get to see the ruthless side of it. You don't get to see the blackmail. You don't get to see the greed. You don't get to see the power plays because that's all behind the scenes. The average Joe sitting at his home right now would watch the assassination of Trump and go, it's staged. It's not staged. What this man's going up against is not just the politicians like, for example, Kamala Harris or Sleepy Joe or Obama or the Hillary Clinton family and so on. It's not just them that Trump's going up against. Trump's going up against the Bank of International Settlements in terms of CBDCs. He's going up against the International Monetary Fund in terms of CBDCs. He's going up against the World Economic Forum in terms of CBDC. These are the most powerful people that run the show. And he's going up against all of them. And then to put on top of that, Iran doesn't want Trump in power. The Iranian government doesn't want Trump in power because they're scared of Trump, because the sanctions will come, heads first into Iran. Iran will be restricted once again and will not be able to do any sort of movements. Russia doesn't want Trump in play either as well, because then things are going to get very difficult for Russia. China doesn't want Trump in play because then things are going to get very difficult for China. So it's not just countries that are against Trump being in power, or essentially the World Economic Forum, or the Bank of International Settlements, or the International Monetary Fund. There are maybe I said too much. Yeah, I just got kicked out completely and came back in. Yeah, it was the first time that's happened. I mean, I've said sometimes regarding CBDCs, but that was the first time that happened. It completely kicked me out. I had to come back in. I guess that's what happens when you're too accurate. I do not like the attempts on any American presidents. Facts. I'm a lifetime soldier, and I took a personal against American institutions, saying that Trump has attacked our institutions, and many people not happy with him in that respect. People outside the U.S. can easily have an opinion because many things do not affect them. Let's go, Scott. Facts. I would say, Clean, you are a good and honest person, Miles, but I would have loved to hear your thoughts about what, while he was in office and attacking Americans on our television society. Sorry, it's called clown. I have no idea what he was. The people paid to say this to go to the shows. They're not the real American people that love the country that would say. I want to make it pretty clear. I've never hear no one on this page to check Trump on his. And yeah, look, nobody's perfect. Just to point that out as well. Nobody's perfect. But again, this was on the matter of nobody should be taking out one other person. But again, nobody's perfect in this world. You're right. People's lives matter. I always give my respect to someone who wants to stop a war and save lives. Trump's theater is about dishonest people in the government and media. Kamala and Biden's theater is about Trump supporters. Please tell me no one said it was staged. JP is right. The American people. Well said, Miles. Too many weak men, Fruit Loops these days. All goes back to the brainwashing situation, though. Very baffling indeed, brother, from another mother. Lots of Fruit Loops men, though. Trump is going against the evil elites. Yep. They were just accountants. They were lawyers together. If you go back to school, or she went to, that's why they were close regarding Gary Gensler. Yep. Miles, I think there's a lot more to come out of the Republic after Trump wins. The people will be shocked. So obviously we see what's happening presently, and that would be, yep. Miles, let's be honest, Trump ran for office hoping to save himself from the laws he broke. There is so much bashing of the Democratic Party, is ridiculous. No, look, as I said, it doesn't matter which part of the spectrum you're on. And Scott, I fully understand. Nobody's perfect. Trump's done some things in his life that he's probably not proud of, and so is everybody else. There's not a single person on this planet that could say, I'm perfect, I've never committed a crime, I've never done something that's awful to somebody. Nobody's perfect. Based on that as well. So I'm not saying Trump is perfect in every single way. No, nobody's perfect at all. But he's the only person that can stop some scenarios from happening. Jeremy 6 was a riot, not in social. You're back. Let's go. He doesn't need it, but yeah, I fully understand, Scott. I fully understand where you're coming from as well, Scott. He doesn't need it, but you know what, Miles? He loves this country. That's why. You're back again. I can see you. Let's go. Yes, Nope, you were spot on. That's what happens when you tell the truth. Let's go, Stormy. You're back. Let's go. I challenge the folks on this group to research blending alternative commissions and see who the members are, both Republicans and Democrats. Facts. Trump 2024, freedom forever, and freedom of speech. Facts. But no, Scott, I fully understand where you're coming from as well. I fully understand. But yeah, that was very new to me. But he's the best person for this scenario of stopping certain wars happening. Now, going back to the SEC and Gary Gensler. Let's just bring it back to the SEC and Gary Gensler. The SEC. Gary Gensler was supposed to go up against Congress today for all the wrongdoings he has done so far. And there were going to be people testifying against Gary Gensler, and Congress was going to be giving him a grilling. And the entire essentially congressional hearing was only for Gary Gensler and the people testifying against him. So this happened today. The SEC's crypto record essentially rebuked by ex-commissioner GOP lawmakers in hearing. The U.S. securities regulator took a beating, apparently. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission regulator, Gary Gensler, took a beating in a congressional hearing that was weighted against him, with a witness list of critics calling out the SEC for its first fight against crypto firms. The Securities and Exchange Commission was mostly a punching, and these are not my words, the Securities and Exchange Commission was mostly a punching bag for witnesses in the House of Financial Services Committee hearing hosted Wednesday by its crypto subcommittee. Daniel Gallagher, a former SEC commissioner, recounted Robinhood's difficulties in trying to comply with the agency's views on crypto and argued that the regulator has ignored its own authority to do something more established in terms of digital asset rules. So the first SEC commissioner, so the first former SEC commissioner testifying against Gary Gensler in front of Congress, a former SEC member, has said that Gary Gensler has done a terrible job in terms of assets and rules and regulations, and that he could have performed better, for example, with the Robinhood case. The US Securities Exchange Commission was hammered for 2 hours. So Gary Gensler was hammered for 2 hours, like a punching bag, apparently, in a congressional hearing on Wednesday, in which the witnesses list prominently, including agency critics, including former Commissioner Daniel Gallagher, who is now at Robinhood, and a preview of what could come when all 5 SEC commissioners come on board, including Chairman Gary Gensler. So, a full hearing of the House Financial Services Committee on September 24th. The agency took a theoretical beating from the most of Wednesday's witnesses. The biggest one, essentially, SEC versus Congress with all the witnesses is going to be September 24th. But this was a taste of what's going to come on the 24th, basically. So essentially what happened now with the SEC being used as a punching bag by Congress and witnesses, it was a taste of what the SEC is going to get coming 24th. All the Republican members and some of the crypto-friendly Democrats on the subcommittee holding a hearing entitled Dazed and Confused. So this is what the hearing was called. Dazed and Confused, breaking down the SEC's political approach to crypto digital assets, was the name of the meeting. Brad Gallagher, who is a senior lawyer at Robinhood Markets and whose name has been circulated as a possible agency chair if the Republicans retake the White House next year, recounted a very frustrating situation in which his company was rebuked essentially in an effort to register with the SEC for crypto activity, and has recently received a notice that the agency is weighing an enforcement action on our very compliant Robinhood crypto offerings. We have to look over our shoulders left and right, is what one of the witnesses said. The former SEC commissioner testifying against the SEC said, whilst working in a crypto company, we have to look over our shoulders left and right because of this regulatory uncertainty. Brad Gilligan went on to say, arguing that the agency has deliberately ignored a legal authority that would have allowed it to engage in some initial rulemaking even before Congress weighs in. Ultimately, it will be up to Congress to rectify the Commission's failure to act to register both tokens and platforms and to provide clarity for those which do not require registration, Gallagher said. Only Congress will be able to truly provide the necessary long-term regulatory clarity for digital assets, but nothing is stopping the Commission from moving now to provide a tailored relief that allows firms to register even if provisionally and continue to innovate in the meantime. Lawmakers question the uncertainty over the compliance status of Prometheum. Prometheum is basically a crypto platform. That's the only platform that's completely green-lighted by the SEC. And Prometheum is the only crypto platform that has a humongous list of SEC employees inside of it. So Congress were asking Gary Gensler the question of, why is Prometheum the only crypto platform green-lighted with fully working SEC members? The SEC's first special purpose broker deal for crypto, which recently opened its crypto securities custody operation. And the interesting part about Prometheum is that Prometheum is only listing cryptocurrencies as securities on purpose. Every other crypto exchange, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, BitGet, name it, every other crypto exchange in this world is listing cryptocurrencies as not as securities. Prometheum is the only crypto exchange green-lighted by the SEC, has former SEC members inside of it, and is listing every crypto they list as securities on purpose. So Congress want to know, why is that? Which recently opened its crypto securities custody options. They also question witnesses on the meanings of the SEC's recent administration in terms of in its legal dispute with Binance that erred in using confusing shorting term crypto asset securities. Very recently, about a few days ago, essentially in the SEC versus Binance case, the SEC changed the term securities when it comes to cryptos to characteristics of a security around the token makes it a security. So for years, it was this token as a security. And then in the Binance case with the SEC a few days ago, in the paperwork, the SEC apologized for the confusion and said the characteristics around a token can make it a security. But before it was, that's a security. So Congress asked the SEC, why is that it took you this long for you to do that, even though your statement is still wrong, but why has it took you this long? They also questioned witnesses on the meeting of the SEC's recent administration on the legal dispute of Binance that the error was using confusing short-term crypto asset securities, which wasn't meant to suggest that the crypto tokens themselves are securities. Democrats spent much of their times underlying the extent of fraudulent activities in the industry, Rep. Sean Casten. So it wasn't just Republicans going up against the SEC and saying you're wrong. Democrats were also teaming up with Republicans and going against the SEC. Also, criticized essentially former President Donald Trump's family crypto project, World Liberty Financial. The congressman suggested its intent to retain 20% of his tokens for insiders seems designed to get around the proposal and prominent legislation proposals. The Financial Innovation and Technology for 21st Century Act, FIT 21, in which projects with less than 20% of internal ownership can be considered decentralized. Rep. Brad Sherman, one of the panel's most colorful and vocal critics of the crypto industry, also targeted Trump. Trump's crypto project also came up today in Congress. He announced that he is now the chief crypto advocate, Sherman noted, about Trump. How Trump is now the chief crypto advocate. And Sherman from Congress is not happy about this. So on one hand, he has all the power given to him by the Republican Party. And on the other hand, Trump, he's trying to make billions of dollars for advocating crypto. That's a conflict of interest that makes Clarence Thomas look like Mother Teresa. He said a reference to the recent scandals to the Supreme Court Justice Thomas. Okay, regarding Trump's crypto project, very odd movement. So the Republicans and Democrats were going up against the SEC. Now, there were some politicians that were still a bit iffy when it comes to cryptocurrencies, but the majority of Republicans and Democrats were going against the SEC, and so were the witnesses. And again, this was just a teaser of what's going to be coming on 24th of September, raining upon the SEC. But they said Trump has too much power, is what they said in this Congress meeting. They said at the end towards it, they said Trump has too much power and that Trump is leading the Republican Party and leading the crypto space, and that Trump has started to look like Mother Teresa compared to everybody else. And one of the politicians is not happy about this at all. He's fuming right now that Trump is apparently compared to Mother Teresa when it comes to everything. And this Rep. Brad Sherman is fuming right now on that matter. But putting that to one side, the other matter of the teaser of the SEC, of what's about to come on the 24th of September. So far, great. With everybody villainizing, essentially making the SEC look bad, they did a great job. I mean, every news article pretty much says the SEC was used as a punching bag in this scenario. So that was just a taster. That was a taste test for what's about to come 24th September. So I'm definitely going to be covering that on tonight's live show. But the SEC pretty much had nothing to say. The SEC was just there taking it all in. Because what can you say when you've been manipulating the game for a very long time? Now, next news on tonight's live show is regarding JP Morgan. JP Morgan has just joined the Bank of International Settlements on one of their particular projects, which we're going to go through on tonight's live show regarding Bank of International Settlements and JP Morgan. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. By the way, this is a live show, so if you do have any questions or comments, go through this inside the comment section. We're live right now on YouTube and X at the exact same time every single night. Let's see. Oh, Ray, thank you so much for the $4.20 $4.20 donation to the startup for the CMF hedge fund. Absolutely amazing. Let's go. Miles for first world president. Let's go, Ray. That'll be amazing. But let's go, Ray. Just a dream. I wonder a lot if Congress. Oh wait, let's go here. I think we'll miss some. Will these hearings and the heat on the weasel stop any attempt by the SEC to appeal the Ripple case? Probably, Scott. I would say definitely. I mean, this is going to put a lot of pressure on the SEC's movements. This one was a taste test. 24th of September is the rain upon the SEC. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the SEC's movements, next movements. So yes, I mean, the first pressure the SEC had where they green-lighted Ethereum ETFs like this, but without the capability of staking. But there was pressure from the FIT21 Act and the entire Congress turning against the SEC, which made Gary Gensler on the same night approve Ethereum ETFs, even though there was no chance of a possibility happening this year, as a lot of people were estimating not to happen in terms of major analysts in play, one of them being Michael Saylor. But it made the SEC move quicker. So this essentially taste test or this rain upon them on 24th of September could put a lot of pressure on the SEC to restrict their certain movements inside the crypto space. The fact you're not for Goldfish, Kamala, and the Psycho Debt means automatically that you have to defend Trump like he's an angel. No one is perfect. Same arguments for years now. Yeah, but it's true. No one is perfect. I wonder a lot if Congress will move to impeach Gensler, or do they have the power to do so? I don't think they have the power to do so, but they can restrict his paychecks. So Congress doesn't really have the power to remove Gary Gensler. The president can remove Gary Gensler. But Congress can reduce the budgeting for the SEC. But again, you know, Biden's administration can veto that. That's the issue. I'm tired of the SEC being in the way of me securing a stronger financial future for my family. Fire the weasel. Let's go, Scott. And Ray, once again, thanks so much for the donation to CMF Hedge Fund. What's up, Miles and CMF? Let's go, Billo. How you doing? How are you, brother? I'm doing great, Billo. How you doing? Ray, thanks, brother. Let's go, Ray. Now, JP Morgan. JP Morgan and central banks join Bank of International blockchain project. The banking giant JP Morgan, credit card company, Visa, as well as major centralized banks from Japan and the US have thrown their support behind a sophisticated cross-border payment project that was initiated by the Bank of International Settlements, Bloomberg reports. The cross-border payment program, which is known as Project Argo, aims to improve the efficiency of cross-border payments by making them faster and more transparent. The public and private collaboration could potentially reshape the existing financial markets infrastructures with the help of a unified ledger. The project primarily focuses on tokenization, which has emerged as one of the biggest crypto trends. This technology would make it possible to use new types of transactions and arrangements. Notably, the Bank of International Settlements wants to go beyond the proof of concept with Argo, aiming to create a blueprint for modern financial market infrastructures. An extensive report detailing the results of the project is expected to be published in 2025. So far, it is the most sophisticated blockchain project initiated by the Bank of International Settlements in terms of number of participants. In June, Enbridge, another project initiated by the Bank of International Settlements, ended up reaching a stage of minimum viable product, MVP. The list of its participants include the Central Bank of China, the UAE, Thailand, as well as Saudi Arabia. The project is also powered by Enbridge Ledger, a new blockchain that was built specifically for cross-border payments. Last year, the central banks of France, Switzerland, and Singapore joined the Bank of International Settlements in order to try out using wholesale CBDCs for conducting cross-border trades. So, JP Morgan has just joined the Bank of International Settlements Project Argo alongside Visa, and they're naming it the most sophisticated cross-border payment system out there. The Bank of International Settlements has about 11 to 12, essentially, cross-border projects going on. About 11 to 12 cross-border projects, including tokenizations going on. At the end of it, the Bank of International Settlements is going to end up choosing one of them or a few of them to lead the show. There's about 63 centralized banks, including G20 and G7 countries under it. So let's see which one they're going to choose. But the Bank of International Settlements and JP Morgan, they're both on board now. Moving on from the Bank of International Settlements news to Wisdom Tree. Wisdom Tree, a very long time ago, released this year. Wisdom Tree, a while ago, released a blockchain platform, a crypto trading platform for high-profile investors. And Wisdom Tree is now going to be offering real-world assets on their platform. Wisdom Tree empowers institutions with innovative tokenization of real-world assets. The momentum for tokenization of real-world assets continues to grow, with major players like BlackRock, Franklin, and Chinese banks making significant strides. The latest development comes from Wisdom Tree, which has introduced a dedicated real-world asset platform for institutions, and Ethereum remains the preferred choice for this evolving landscape and its leading position in an unsurprising way. Wisdom Tree, known for its asset management and ETFs, announced today that the launch of its real-world asset platform for institutions and corporations, the Wisdom Tree Connect platform, eliminates the technical complexities associated with tokenization of real-world assets for businesses. This new product, linked to Wisdom Tree Prime, emerged from an effort to provide solutions for various customer groups. Users on this platform will be able to hold their tokenized funds in wallets and purchase fund tokens in $1 or USDC. Initially, Wisdom Tree Connect will mint tokens solely on the Ethereum network, but there are plans for expansions to other blockchains over time. So Wisdom Tree is not going to be just sticking to Ethereum in terms of tokenization. They're going to be expanding into other blockchains. Ethereum and real-world assets. As a hub for smart contracts, the Ethereum network is also the center of this world of real-world assets. Financial giants from state banks in China to BlackRock prefer it for token issuance, hurdling the advantages of Ethereum will bring to the anticipated $1 trillion real-world asset market space. Tokenized assets signify the migration of traditional instruments like bonds, loans, and funds to blockchain technology. This transition promises a faster, more transparent, and cost-effective tool, potentially saving billions of dollars. Though they're still in the early stages, real-world asset tokens, which have reached billion-dollar valuations, could be the most significant developments in finance over the next decade. Now, moving on from Wisdom Tree, which, by the way, extremely positive and bullish news coming out of Wisdom Tree, creating a platform for tokenized real-world assets for institutions and high-profile players that bring on majority of the money. But it's nice to see the progress from the corporate sector because they have all the money. Now, moving on from Wisdom Tree to Australia. Australia has been slightly silent regarding their CBDC movements until now. Because yesterday I revealed also that if a lot of countries, 66 countries, are pretty much ready on a full-scale launch of a CBDC, according to Atlantic Council report on a think tank of the United States, which was a study test by the US. So, Australia's central bank commits to wholesale CBDCs sidelining retail option. The Reserve Bank of Australia plans to prioritize developing wholesale central bank digital currencies over the retail version. The Reserve Bank of Australia Assistant Governor Brad Jones disclosed during his speech at the conference that was happening September 18th, noting that the top banks has launched a 3-year plan called Project ASAP to realize its goals. According to Jones, the Reserve Bank of Australia is focusing on wholesale CBDCs because research shows that retail CBDCs does not offer many benefits for Australian economy and will be challenging to implement compared to retail. Absolute load of lies. Absolute load of lies. Okay, Australia's centralized bank is not the first bank to state, retail CBDCs is too many issues with privacy and the people don't trust it yet, so it's better to focus on wholesale CBDCs. That is not the reason why they're doing wholesale CBDCs. It's not because of privacy or the people won't accept it. They're going to force you to accept it either way when it comes to CBDCs. People aren't that bright, hence why the world is like this, and so on. But regarding wholesale CBDCs first, it's a tactic. You see, China released CBDCs for the retail section. They had one difficulty, which was spending CBDCs. So China released retail CBDCs first, and it was the first country to pretty much release CBDCs to their citizens. So China released CBDCs to a few provenance, and it was retail CBDCs. The issue was there wasn't a lot of places you could spend that CBDC. So after releasing retail CBDCs, China started getting businesses on board to accept CBDCs, which was quite odd. So other countries have taken a lesson from essentially China's method by releasing wholesale CBDCs first. Because if they get the businesses around you to accept CBDCs, it's much more easier to implement retail CBDCs, which means you can spend it. So every country that keeps on coming out with the statement of, oh, we care about people's privacy, that's why we're doing wholesale CBDCs. No, the reason why you're doing wholesale CBDCs first is because you want to get businesses first to accept CBDCs, wholesale CBDCs, and then you want to bring the retail CBDC so the retail section can spend the CBDC. That's the only reason they're doing it. But they all go on about, oh, it's difficult for retail CBDCs for people to accept it, and privacy, people don't trust it. I mean, privacy, sure. I mean, it's got zero privacy regarding CBDCs. But again, that's not the reason why they're doing this, because they can easily make people accept CBDCs. It's easier than you think. If you look at the amount of banks that have been closing down, the cash points that are disappearing, and a lot of places don't accept cash, we're already headed that way anyways. So easier than you think to accept CBDCs for the retail section, because how are you going to spend your cash when nobody's going to be essentially accepting it sooner or later? CBDCs is going to be forced upon you either way. But again, that's why they're doing it. So according to Jones, the Reserve Bank of Australia is focused on wholesale CBDCs because research shows the retail CBDC does not offer many benefits for Australian economies and will be challenging to implement compared to retail. In his speech, he highlighted the several arguments for creating a retail CBDC, noting that such issues are irrelevant to Australia. He said, our assessment is that the potential benefits of a retail CBDC generally appear modest or uncertain at present time, relative to the challenges it would introduce. Most of the arrangements made internationally in support of a retail CBDC reflect issues that are either of limited relevance to Australia or where it is not obvious to that the retail CBDC would best address them. Some issues highlighted including monetary resilience, cost and efficiencies, financial inclusion, and monetary sovereignty. Jones claims that these do not have much impact on Australia as the country's current financial systems already offer sufficient solutions to cover them. However, he added that Reserve Bank of Australia and Treasury will still release the need for retail CBDCs and plan to release a follow-up paper by 2027. Okay, either way, stated at the end, they're still going to be releasing CBDCs, retail CBDCs inside of Australia. But the best part is they said by 2027, we're pretty much into CBDCs. So just a heads up, 2027 is when pretty much all the major banks have said, their executives have said, by 2027, there's going to be no more banks on the high streets. By 2027, the year 2027, there's going to be no more banks on the high streets. This was mentioned by HSBC Bank. This was mentioned by Lloyds Bank. This was mentioned by Santander Bank. This was mentioned by NatWest Bank. I mean, the list of banks that have mentioned this, by 2027, there's going to be no more banks on the high street. Hence why not just Australia, but the year 2027 has came up a lot when countries talk about CBDCs. Wholesale CBDCs to benefit the central and commercial banks. Meanwhile, Jones said wholesale CBDCs will offer several benefits to the central banks and commercial banks, making it the preferred option for the Reserve Bank of Australia to pursue now with the launch of Project Asia. He said, I can confirm that the Reserve Bank of Australia is making a strict commitment to prioritizing its work and agenda on wholesale digital bank money infrastructure, including wholesale CBDCs, rather than retail CBDCs, which is absolutely BS because they're doing both. Some of the benefits he identified included reducing counterparty and operational risk, improving capital efficiency, increasing transparency, high liquidity, improved traceability, and reducing compliance costs and the number of intermediaries. Although the plan is still very much in the research and exploratory stage, which is also a lot of BS, it is clear that the Reserve Bank of Australia plans on focusing on tokenization, both real-world assets and cash, also a lot of BS. Jones noted that central banks already have experience issuing digital money to financial institutions, making the introduction of a wholesale CBDC a mere improvement on existing practices rather than a complete sector revolution. So they're calling wholesale CBDCs or CBDCs in general not that much of a big deal. You know, everybody moving away from cash going to CBDCs, not that much of a big deal, according to Australia. It's the same system, it's just more digital. Project Asia to launch a public phase. With the Reserve Bank of Australia now focused on wholesale CBDCs, Jones announced that the public phase of Project Asia is an immediate priority as the Reserve Bank of Australia seeks to build on its earlier CBDC pilot project. By the way, the Reserve Bank of Australia a very long time ago said that CBDCs is not on our books. We're never going to go into CBDCs whatsoever. There's no point. We don't need it. And they were just basically lying to everyone to behind the scenes get the show up and running. And why now that they do have the show up and running slightly, they've mentioned that it's a priority to release CBDCs. So they went from no CBDCs to priority of releasing CBDCs. Project Asia also aims to build on the lessons from our CBDC pilots last year by focusing on opportunities to uplift the efficiencies, transparency and resilience of wholesale markets through tokenized money and new settlement infrastructures. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of Australia plans to start an advisory forums on CBDCs, compromise of industry stakeholders and academics in 2025, noting that it had engagements with them and that but wants to formalize the structure for future discussions on monetary policy issues. However, 2025 will also be seeing reforms to the existing regulatory sandbox for financial innovation, enabling new businesses to test their financial products and services more effectively. The Reserve Bank of Australia is not working alone on the 3-year CBDC plan. It is partnering with Treasury to essentially articulate their goals. Regarding the Reserve Bank of Australia, they're not alone, which is factual. Bank of International Settlements is involved in one particular blockchain group. Also, on the topic of Australia, Bitstamp is now targeting Australia's institutional crypto market space due to what was announced by Australia's authorities. The number one question is, who will Biden pardon before he leaves office? Who is Biden going to pardon before he leaves his office? His son. Guaranteed. The number one person Biden is going to pardon is his son. Thanks, Ray. If he already hasn't. Thanks, Ray. Family, if you do not mind, please share the live. Also respond with a comment after the show to improve the algorithm. Yes, please do. Let's go, Scott, for saying that. Family, if you do not mind, please share the live. Also respond with a comment after the show to improve the algorithm. I love my CMF on X. Let's go, Scott. Market is moving up. Let's go, chill zone. Good night, everybody, and I hope you all have a good night's sleep. Thank you, Miles. JPC tomorrow, but sometimes as usual. Facts. Let's go, Dazzle and Bitstamp. Bitstamp targets Australia's institutional crypto market space. It's very coordinated. Australia mentions CBDCs and we're moving towards that movement. And then Bitstamp makes the announcement of we're targeting Australia's institutional crypto space. Bitstamp is gearing up to expand its institutional operations in Australia, strengthening its presence in Asia. This move comes as Robinhood is set to acquire Bitstamp in a $200 million deal expected to be finalized by early 2025. In an interview at Token 2049 conference in Singapore, so it was a blockchain event that was happening in Singapore called Token 2049, Bobby, Bitstamp's global chief commercial officer, highlighted the company's aim to broaden its services for institutional clients in Australia. Bobby stressed Asia's potential, pointing to Hong Kong and Singapore as key markets. He noted that Bitstamp's growing footprint in Australia and its unique offerings for institutional clients in a market with limited choices. Bobby shared his insights into Bitstamp's revenue distribution, revealing that Asia contributes roughly 20% to this global reserve, while Europe accounts for about 65% of less competition in Australia, especially compared to major players like Binance and Kraken. Bitstamp sees a big chance to attract institutional clients in Australia. Robinhood's acquisition of Bitstamp is progressing, with the company seeking the necessary approvals from regulators. Bobby expressed confidence in the regulatory process, stating, "We're confident in that timeline. Integrating Bitstamp's infrastructure with Robinhood's retail trading base could offer a wider range of product offerings, particularly as Robinhood plans to launch derivatives exchange for institutional investors. Also, Jonan Corbett, Robinhood's crypto general manager, underscored the significance of this acquisition in expanding its crypto services. He mentioned that Bitstamp's capabilities will support Robinhood's broader growth initiatives, especially in tokenization and advanced trading features. Corbett also noted that Robinhood aims to provide a smooth experience for traders, highlighting that users could gain access to an average 3.6% more crypto assets compared to competitors. In addition, the acquisition of Bitstamp strengthens Robinhood's service for both retail and institutional clients. Corbett noted that newly developed tools will enhance trading options, solidifying Robinhood's competitive stance inside the crypto markets. So, by the way, Bitstamp being acquired by Robinhood, Bitstamp is also a partner of Ripple since 2018. Robinhood said when they do acquire Bitstamp fully, they're going to keep their partnerships that they do have going on. Hence why Robinhood recently mentioned Ripple and XRP on their new announcements, because they're acquiring Bitstamp, and Bitstamp has deep ties with Ripple and XRP. Actually, I don't like Australian government, how they think. I wasn't like how they tried during the Open Australia 2022. I think, by the way, I'm not Serbian. Miles, with that, as of now, which bank, World Bank, would you invest in with our future, considering the upcoming restrictions being upon us all? The world's number one lenient bank is HSBC Bank. HSBC Bank is a bank that is very lenient when it comes to money, and they don't ask too many questions. Look, if you have a small bank account, then the banks, any bank, if you have a small, just to point this out because it's a great question. So Freedom Favor asked a great question. Miles, with what you know, which bank, World Bank, would you invest in with our future, considering the upcoming restrictions being upon us all? When it comes to any bank, just consider this. Majority of banks, if you have a small bank account, then the bank is always going to haggle you. Where are you spending this money? Who are you sending this money to? Or they might just freeze your accounts. If you have a medium-sized bank account, they're still going to haggle you. If you have a large bank account, there's a little bit of leniency there. If you have a much more extravagant, larger bank account, the bank couldn't care less about you. As long as you are the type of person that keeps their head down, the bank wouldn't even ask you twice about where you're spending your money at. Now, there are some banks that will still try to haggle you, but other banks like HSBC Bank, they couldn't care less. If you bring millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of pounds or dollars into HSBC Bank, they wouldn't even take a second look at you. There are some banks that would take a second look at you, but HSBC is one of them that wouldn't. But private banks are also a good solution that matter as well. For example, Solo Bank, as I've mentioned before. Solo Bank is a private bank based out of Georgia. They have other branches around the world as well. They have a branch in Turkey. There's just one branch that they do have. It's a private bank. They have a few branches around the world. Great bank, private bank, and they don't ask where your money is going to whatsoever. They couldn't care less. They couldn't care less how much money you put in your bank account. They couldn't care less who you're sending it to. They couldn't care less at all about any of your movements inside of that bank. So private banks tend to not care whatsoever. You see, the retail section is the only one being haggled inside, inside the banking world. It's the retail section. If you have a very, very large account, as long as you keep your head down and your mouth shut, the bank will, let you do whatever you want. They couldn't care less about you. But if you have a small bank account or a medium-sized bank account, the bank is always going to be on you. Who are you sending this money to? Why are you spending it here? Or freeze your accounts or seize your accounts. If you have an extremely large bank account, as long as you keep your head down, your mouth shut, they won't even look twice at you. But private banks will be great in that scenario. And Solo Bank is one of those banks that, they don't care where the money comes from. None of this is financial advice whatsoever. As the show suggests, it's just entertainment purposes only. We've also come to the endings of tonight's live show as well. On tonight's live show, we went through Bitstamp targeting Australian institutional clients. We talked about Australia's CBDC movements. We talked about Wisdom Tree in terms of their real-world asset tokenization to institutional clients that's been introduced first on Ethereum, expanding to other blockchains. Then we talked about JP Morgan partnering with Bank of International Settlements, which is a big move for JP Morgan. Then we went through the news topic of the SEC being hammered by Congress, essentially, Republicans and Democrats. Then we talked about Silvergate Capital Bank Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is good for the crypto news, for the crypto space. Then we talked about the SEC boss, essentially Gary Gensler, issuing a warning to the crypto space once again on CNBC. Then we went through the news topic of Revolut Bank offering a stablecoin to the crypto space. Then we talked about on tonight's live show regarding BRICS, the Russian foreign minister, in terms of the movements of BRICS so far, in terms of their payment system. Then we talked about the news regarding Ton Network receiving $100 million into their ecosystem to essentially $30 million into their ecosystem to expand the Ton ecosystem on their Web3 market mini app space. And then we talked about on tonight's live show regarding the Federal Reserve and the movements, the bullet points, and where do we go from here. So if you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like if you already haven't. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe if you already haven't, and tune into it every single night at 11:25, 11:30 p.m. UK time. And if you're watching us on X, tune into this live show as well. If you're new, follow if you already haven't, like, subscribe, retweet, drop a comment after the live show is done on the video, CMF members. It helps with the algorithm, as Scott's been saying for a while now. And thanks so much to everyone that tunes in every single night. Genuinely mean it. Love you all. Thanks so much to every single one of you that tunes in every single night. And if you just followed me, welcome to the CMF family. If you just followed me, because the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. So welcome to the CMF family if you just followed me. And we have our own Telegram group, which you're more than welcome to join if you are new inside the crypto space. Join the Telegram group. Amazing place to be in. Everybody's very respectful, and it's completely free. And you can tune into these live shows every single night and get informed on vital information inside the banking space, or the political space, or the legislation space, or the policy space, or the AI space, or the CBDC space. You can tune to this live show and get vital information every single night, completely for free on this live show. That was pretty much, this is episode 159 of the CMF live show. And episode 160 will be tomorrow, in other words. So if you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like, and tune into it every single night. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. Thanks, Miles. Let's go for your vote. No problem. Good night, CMF. Callie, good night. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Carol, good night, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Night, Miles. Pablo, see you tomorrow sometime as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow sometime as usual. Fantastic live tonight. Good night, Miles and CMF. Dazzle, let's go. Thanks so much, kind words, brother. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great live, Miles. Let's go for your forever. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. See everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. If you haven't followed, follow. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you watch us on YouTube or on X. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Brother Miles. Good night, CMF. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. Good night, all. Family, please hit the like button. Let's go. Definitely hit the like button when you get a chance. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. And wealthy, healthy, wealthy you. See you tomorrow, same time.